But it does seem, once again, to highlight the kind of naivety of our justice system where, you know, we've got these do-gooders who believe that if you're radicalised, if you are willing to kill somebody because of your religion or because of some other belief that you have, that you will somehow be, you know, miraculously cured of that by talking to some people in a lecture theatre.
I agree, Mike. I think that all too often our counter-extremism structures, they're suffered from a great deal of idealism.
Yeah.
More than anything. I think that there hasn't been enough hard-headed thinking in terms of how we go about counter-extremism in our country. And I think that, well, some of the reported findings of the Short Course Review, they won't come as any surprise to me. I think that on top of that, we have a number of public bodies which are involved in the broader Prevent scheme, which in my view suffer from a progressive liberal bias. And I think that's a real problem when you have organisations who may well view British Muslims as some kind of homogeneous, monolithic group which is oppressed by the British state. Then how are we meant to robustly tackle Islamist extremism if there are practitioners involved within the Prevent scheme and indeed organisations involved within it who have a mindset which works against that?
Yeah, and I mean, do you think, as I do, that actually a lot of this is driven by a kind of misplaced belief that just to kind of single out Islamist threats and Islamic fundamentalists and Islamic kind of radicalisation, that's somehow viewed as being racist, and that's how we got to the problems that we had with the grooming gangs being ignored, and similarly here, where they didn't really investigate Islamist groups, but they tried more to investigate, you know, what they regarded as incels or other sort of what they called far-right groups, which are clearly not as big of a threat.
Well, I wouldn't trivialise the threat of far-right extremism, Mike. As I've said before in previous interviews, that is the fastest-growing terror threat in the UK.
Yeah, but fastest-growing doesn't mean anything, Rakib.
Absolutely.
It means that there's now, you know, 10 people instead of 1. You know, that's what it means.
And that's the point that I'd make, that many people mix fastest-growing with the prevailing terror threat. And the prevailing terror threat is very clearly presented by Islamist extremism in the UK. That's reflected when you look at the ideological composition of individuals who are on the MI5's wider terror-related watch list. And that's also reflected in the wider prison population when it comes to those who have been convicted of terror-related offences. Yeah. And I hope that the Short Cross Review underlines that, because there's a great many people who seem to think they're intelligent but can't understand the difference between prevailing terror threat and fastest-growing terror threat. Right.